chamra chingelo chancho parginin sen tukuntu Niu peme siudru lekshune chancho drube gegen kunshishi tungen de la drubra chingel dagi lona chela chokpa samjur ngemba shiwa dan chedan tumbe dudun malupa beme lunge drubra chingelo dorna tengne tsera tamche dan techi pardo ne kav tamche tu rese kyamne lama keleme tukje chenge dala siksu so gongyab drewe nyamta dachala jetsun lame tuje rab gongne kudan sungi nawa dralme tu nyamsu nyongwe kesan tobrasho kewa kuntu yanda lama drame cheki pela longche chin sadan lamge yente rabzo dorje change kopa nyurtop Sho pakyuke kudan dagi lu pakyuke sundan pakyuke tugdan dagi tüyerme çıktı cingi lo makyuke kudan dagi lu makyuke sundan dagi nga makyuke tugdan dagi çıktı cingi lo Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Soha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Soha Om Muni Mahamuni Shakyamuni Swaha Sangye chedan tsogi chonam lai chanchu pardo dani kyapsu dagi jinso gibe sonam king drola pinchira sangye drupar sho sangye chedan tsogi chonam la chanchu pardo dani kyapsu dagi jinso gibe sonam king drola pinchira sangye drupar sho sangye chedan tsogi chonam la chancho pardo dani dagi jinso gibe sonam ki drola pinchira sangye drupar sho nel Buddha, nel Dharma e nel Sangha prendo rifugio fino all'illuminazione. Pratica della generosità e delle altre perfezioni. Tenere lo stato di Buddha per il beneficio di tutti gli esseri senzienti. Namo alhaye kedalu danwe jinke drubundanami kenamdan druwa kunge dranam chitsampa tamche kedu dagi cheten to. Buonasera.
Good evening.
Volevo cominciare oggi
Today I wanted to start by sharing a thought. Can you hear?
un pensiero di questi giorni, di oggi.
A thought that I had these days, and in particular today.
Quando c'è un sistema,
When there is a system,
immaginiamo come
let's imagine like a car or anything,
anche se viene messo in una giusta
even if it's
direzione,
put
per
into
fare
a
quella
certain
direzione
direction, in order for it to go into that direction and to work in a certain way, it needs energy. One of the things, one of the most important things that we have as a resource that we always look for in different forms is energy. And so
e qual è l'efficienza
what is also the
di questa
efficiency
energia.
that we give to that energy? What is the form?
Anche parlando da un punto di vista
Also
molto
speaking from
materiale,
a material point of view,
noi viviamo in un'epoca
we live in
dove
in a time where
il costo
also
dell'energia
the
è
cost of
aumentato
the energy has increased,
e questo anche ci ha
and
portato
this
in
also
qualche modo a
has
un
brought
aumento di
us
consumo maggiore su
um,
certi versi,
on one
proprio per
side to have
avere
like
questa
a
certa
higher
efficienza migliore.
um,
Basta vedere le case che stanno
consume on one side, and on the other side a higher price.
nel periodo in cui
Also in the
i
70s, the
costi
houses
dell'energia
weren't so
meno alti,
insulated, and they had like a cheaper price for heating, and so there wasn't much attention into that.
similmente
And
quando pensiamo al
similarly,
nostro corpo,
when we
al
think
nostro
about
sistema,
our body, our system,
da dove prendiamo la nostra energia?
where do we take energy from?
Prendiamo dal respiro, dal
From the
cibo,
breathing, from the food,
ok? E credo io anche da
and I
altre
believe
fonti,
also from
ok?
other things.
In parte abbiamo bisogno di dormire bene,
And partially, we need to sleep
è una
well,
parte importante
which
di
is
questo.
an important part for this.
Come consumiamo la nostra
How we
energia? Quali
consume,
sono le parti
how do we
buone della
consume
nostra
our
energia?
energy? How is it consumed?
Abbiamo
We
la
have,
parte della digestione consuma energia?
does
Abbiamo una
digestion
macchina
consume
che deve
energy?
funzionare, quindi
So
c'è
we have a
dall'intestino
machine
allo
that has to
stomaco,
work.
il cuore, il
There is a
fegato, il
stomach, the
feto,
intestine, the heart,
eccetera, eccetera. Di
and
tutte le
so on.
parti del nostro corpo,
And
qual è quella che
from
consuma più energia
out
in
of all
questo
the
momento?
parts of our body, which one is it
È il
that
cervello,
consumes the most energy?
ok?
It's the brain.
Quindi da tutti i nostri organi,
So
quello che ha un livello di consumo
among
di energia
all
più elevato
our organs,
è
the
il nostro
one
cervello,
that has the highest
ok?
consume of energy is our brain.
Quindi se io dovessi fare
So
proprio un
if I
processo di
had to
efficienza
go
energetica,
through a process of
quali sono le
energetical
cose che,
efficiency,
prima cosa che va tolto quando va vista l'efficienza energetica?
what is the first thing
Gli
that we should
sprechi,
take out?
dove vado a
It's
spendere
the
energia dove non
waste,
serve a niente,
where we waste energy, and
no?
it's
Devo
pointless.
cercare di
It's
togliere gli
useless.
sprechi di
So we need
energia.
to cut out
Quanta energia noi
the energy
consumiamo?
waste.
Fisica, sto parlando
How
di energia
much
fisica, di
physical
energia
energy do we
fisica.
consume? I'm
Quanta
speaking about
energia
physical energy,
fisica
not anything
consumiamo su
mystical. How
pensieri
much
che non
of
servono a
it
niente?
do we consume with thoughts that are just pointless?
Ok? Credo io troppa.
I believe too much.
Ok? Tempo fa
Some
sentivo
time
un
ago,
esperto che
I was
parlava
listening to
che
an
molto
expert
spesso
saying that
purtroppo,
very often, unfortunately,
visto l'aumento della monocultura
seeing
e
the
dell'utilizzo
increase of the
dell'agrotossico,
monoculture and
eccetera,
the
non è
use of
che non so
toxic.
neanche bene come viene calcolato questo, però diceva che
I don't know also how
i
this is
i
calculated, but
nutrienti, per
you
esempio
used to
della
say
mela,
that the
della
nutritional
mela di quella
characteristics of
normale
an
non
apple,
c'ha
like a
praticamente gli
normal
stessi
apple of today, in
nutrienti
order to have the same
della
nutritions
mela
of an apple of
pre-industriale,
like
diciamo.
pre-industrial
Ci
apple, let's
vogliono
say,
altri 5
you
per
need
esempio
5 apples
per avere la
today
mela.
to get to one of that time.
E parlava
And he was explaining this, and
dell'importanza
he
della
was
terra
talking about the importance of the
per la
earth
mela,
where
che alla fine dipende da che
that
cosa?
apple
Dai
is
nutrienti
grown,
sul terreno,
because also the
perché
apple
una
depends
terra
on the nutritions
che non
of
ha i nutrienti
the earth, the
necessari non
ground,
cresce bene, ovviamente quello
and
ricade anche dopo nella mela. Poi, ovviamente,
And then, in order for us to be able to eat the apple and whatever fruit, it's collected when it's still not ripe, and it's placed in these huge warehouses with some gases where they stay for months. And then, when it's time to sell, they slowly take parts of this fruit out so that they are able to ripe, maybe after 6 months that I've stayed there. And so when does that apple come to our ends? How much life is there into that apple? To use like an Indian term, how much prana is in that apple? How much vital energy? According to me, very little. I wouldn't say none because I don't believe it's none, but I believe it's little. I don't know if you ever noticed the difference between having eaten an apple taken from like a wild tree and just taking an apple from the supermarket. There is a difference, and not only in taste. And so one of the problems that we face is that in our energetic balance, we waste energy with things that we don't need. And on the other side, our sources of energy, for the same quantity, they generate less. Because the same quantity of food that we consume today generates less energy. So, for example, also our body, in order to be more efficient, needs, how can I say, a certain dynamic to work well, a certain functioning, because if we are too still, then it's not right. And at the time that we find ourselves today, there is quite a problem. And so what I'm trying to put into words is a reflection that I've been observing, or better, the feeling. It's not a certainty that there is a quite diffused feeling of a lack of energy, a sort of tiredness, apathy also, even in young guys, kids. I remember in my mental image that the kids, they have to be like thunder. It's, never tired, day and night. And I often see kids, also teenagers and so on, and they're there like that. And it seems like I don't know what happened, but it's like battery charged not even half. I don't know if it's something that is shared by any of you, but we also speaking about adults that is not much different. There is this feeling quite diffused of tiredness. And so I was asking myself, where does this come from? And first of all, what can we do about it? And so, using a quite pragmatic approach, on one side, we need to put more a better quality fuel, so have a source of energy of quality. We also have a system that if we charge it with energy of bad quality or too much energy, I consume a great part of that energy to digest the energy that I've taken. Question: do we eat the right quantity and what is good for us or not? It depends. And just yesterday I was reflecting on this and I came to the point, I was speaking with a person, um, I came to the point that a human being here doesn't have anything to do with spirituality, anything particularly deep. A person needs to do four things well in order to feel well, like as the basis. He needs to sleep well, eat, sorry to put in this term, but shit, and to move, isn't it? This is the basis, the ABC. So before speaking about the significant life, profound, here and there, we need to do these four things well. And I feel like we are developing systems of artificial intelligence, we're going to the moon, we do incredible things, but the four basic things, we can't do them. Or am I wrong? I see more and more people that need drugs to sleep, needs to move as if it was like a sort of treatment because it's not moving enough or well enough. Eating, we eat badly and then we can't really digest well and all the problems connected to that. And so there is something that is not right. On one side, it's important for us to start to observe because we have had changes that are not indifferent in the past 50 years. I speak like about the humanity in general, and so it's important that we start to see some collateral effects, but we're still in time to decide, okay, do I want to follow like that or do I want to do it in another way? We're still in time to see our priorities, because at the basis our priorities are to sleep, to eat, to shit, and to move. When we can't, when we don't do one of these four things, we get sick, or better, it's already signs of a certain disease, but and then there is no meditation that is working or mantra that is working. At the basis, we need these four things that are to be done well. And so, when a system, our system, is balanced, one of the things that it can do well, it's the part of consuming energy and to regenerate itself. This is a natural process that happens quite well. When the system is not working well, one of the things that happens is that when one is too tired, can't rest. I believe that we have all experimented this already. I've already seen people that are extremely tired and that they can't sleep. For example, also I believe my internal system of energy management makes it so that if I'm very tired, I become monothematic. So I like close some gates and I go on priority things, and the rest doesn't exist. I don't have energy for that, and I close that argument. Sometimes I see the opposite. One is very tired, and instead of closing, it's sh shifting up one gear. And but also to find these four basic points, we need to work on different sides. But Lama, one could ask, what does it have to do with Buddhism, enlightenment, meditation? It has to do with the fact that if there isn't any one of these 4 points, sorry if I put it this way, I don't want to offend anyone, especially not to let down anyone, but if any one of these 4 points is not working well, we will have a very hard time to follow the other more profound aspects of spiritual growth and all the rest. I am not saying that it's impossible, but I would say that it's much more difficult because I need to sleep well in order to have the energy in the morning. For example, in the teachings of Buddha, in different parts, also in the part of Sutra or in Tantra, it says not sleeping. It says don't sleep in the first part of the of the night and in the first part of the morning, which means the one should sleep not should go to sleep not much long after the sunset, and that should wake up a little bit before dawn. This should be the natural path. Also for meditating, the best moment to meditate is actually before dawn, the first hours of the morning. This should be the perfect morning, the perfect moment. And there are also some texts like Guya Samaja that say that it's uniquely possible to reach enlightenment at the dawn of a day with full moon. Okay, you can't at midday. It's only at the dawn of a day of full moon. There are no other possibilities. And here there is a whole technical explanation, but I don't believe that this touches many of us at this point. But this is to say that there is a cycle that helps to sustain ourselves better, because we are not beings that we are not so autonomous and independent, you know. We remember that fundamental rule that wherever there is interaction, inevitably there is also transformation. And we interact with the environment in which we are in. And so naturally, the place where I'm in and what happens around me also shapes my being. I don't know if you've ever experienced or met anyone that has experienced that for a period of his life has exchanged the day and the night for work or whatever. For how much one can sleep during the day for 8 hours, does it work well? Not really. After a while, one gets sick and many other problems arise.
Più che altro perché non ricordo sta attenzione abbastanza al momento. Però c'è stati due medici che avevano vinto un premio
So I met these two doctors that won like a Nobel Prize
avevano scoperto
because they discovered
una
a
sorta
sort
di
of
orologio cellulare
cellular clock
che quando
that
la persona
when the person
dorme di notte
sleeps during the night
effettivamente
and
di
it's
giorno
awake during the
seguendo
day,
il
following the
movimento
rhythm of nature,
questo porta
this
questo orologio cellulare a essere
makes it
sincronizzato.
so that this
Quando
biological
questo non
clock is
accade,
synchronized. When this doesn't
il
happen,
fatto che questo
the fact
orologio
that
magari
this
cellulare non sia più
cellular clock is
sincronizzato
not synchronized
genera poi tutte
makes
le
it so that
patologie dal cuore, pressione,
some
diabetes.
diseases arise, like pressure, heart problems,
Quindi
and
noi
many
abbiamo un
other things.
contatto
And
diretto
so
con
we
quello
have a
che
direct
quello
contact
che accade
with what
fuori
happens
quando
outside, the
siamo in
environment in which we are in.
però io non so
But
quanto
I
voi
don't know how
riuscite
many
magari
of
a
you
dormire un po'
can
di
manage
notte
to
quando
go
provvedete a
to
fare questa
sleep
cosa.
a little after the sunset and to wake up a little bit before dawn. I don't know if there is anyone here actually.
Faresti vergogna di alzarti.
Maybe it's a shame
Non
to
credo
raise the hand, but
che
I
ci
don't
sia,
believe so much that there is anyone.
ok? Noi abbiamo questa cosa,
We
da un
have
lato
this thing
meravigliosa
on
che
one
questo
side that
fatto
it's
sia
wonderful,
artificiale, non
which
c'è,
we have this one thing
non lo so, mi
that
sembra
on
che
one
ci
side
sia
is
questa
wonderful, on the
cosa
other side is awful, which is
che dovremmo
artificial light.
valutare, però
Sorry, this isn't the argument that I
quando ho
want to
preso
talk
le
about
diete
today.
mie,
But
non tanto
shortly,
perché
when I took
la
my
veterinaria
dog,
così,
talking with
però guarda che in generale
the veterinarian,
le cagnoline hanno
the,
dei
the
problemi
the pet
con le
doctor,
orecchie,
she used to say, okay,
perché in
you know,
natura andrebbero
in
inquadrate
nature,
una volta l'anno.
dogs
Poi in natura
will get
andrebbero
aroused like
inquadrate
once a
quando le
year
giornate cominciano a diventare più lunghe.
when the days
Vivendo nelle case
get
con
longer,
luce
but
artificiale,
living inside the houses with artificial light, they
ok? E questo, secondo alcuni esperti, è
they
una delle
go
cause che tante
into
cagnoline
heat
dopo distinguono
twice a
i
year,
tumori.
and so this is also the cause for tumors,
E da questo viene detto che molto spesso
and
consigliano
from
di
this
sterilizzare già da subito
they advise to sterilize
la
and
cagnolina.
so on. And
Io mi
so
sono fatto una riflessione. Noi esseri umani siamo degli animali o no?
I made this reflection:
Da
we human
quanto
beings,
tempo
are
c'è
we animals or
l'artificial
not?
light?
Since when has there been artificial light? 100 years?
No, io non lo so, eh.
I don't know actually. I'm asking because I really don't know the date, the precise year. and also, but I believe it's like less than 100 years, or but anyway, like a century. It doesn't make much difference, 20 years more or less. So this means that our system for millions of years has lived following the natural light, and at a certain point we use an artificial light. And so, as as the as it has an effect on dogs, does it have an effect on us? I ask myself, we are also animals, right? And so what happens is that there are different things that we have taken as changes in our lifestyle, way of living, very often with a goal, which is to have um, less effort and more comfort. We have done everything in order to have a more comfortable life with a less effort. What happens with this is actually that we have often lost some natural balances, and we are seeing it on many different things, because if the difficulty of sustaining these four basic things will touch one or two people, then it will be one thing. But if it touches like 98% of people, then we have a systemic problem in society. There is something that is more diffuse, which doesn't mean that we are a victim. It means that we all do some things that are similar, that are not working. And so, one of the things that I invite you is to reflect a bit on this, and to ask yourselves, okay, I have a quantity of energy. First thing that I need is to regenerate my energy, and for this I need to sleep well. Then I need to feed myself well, and so I need to eat well. And here it requires an attitude that is partly brave, that is to enjoy the food, but also to eat what I need rather than what I like. I don't know if you have ever heard about this theory that the newborn babies, when they start to eat, they know what do they need about with following their taste. My mom did this to me. I don't know much about this, but she told me that when I was very little, there was this theory, and so you should place food in front of the baby of different colors and different kind of foods, and then it's the baby that decides what to eat. And my mom was telling that the kitchen would get like really dirty because I was throwing food everywhere. And if I remember well, one of the first memories that I have, it's that in this life, and it's nothing mystical. It was like of my gag with like some drawings, color drawings. I really remember that image. And I asked myself, what do we need the taste for? What is the function of it? To discern the characteristics of the food. Through the taste, we can understand better if a food, what characteristics does it have, whether if it's, for example, in Tibetan medicine, there is a very complex explanation, but also not so complex, that according to the different kind of taste, that there are 6 types, that they also kind of merge together. And so, for example, there is the sweet sour, there is the sweet sweet, the sweet salty, the different kind of combinations of taste. So like when you eat, which one is the first taste, the aftertaste, and according to the taste of something, you understand the characteristics that it has and how does it work on our body. But the taste has the function to help us to discern what's in front of us. But today, do we use it as a tool to discern the food, or as a tool to give us pleasure? Predominantly, it's a tool to give us pleasure. and that's it. When actually it has a function that we don't to which we don't give so much importance now. But having this attitude, it actually is an attitude of love towards oneself to eat what I need, and seeing that the food is eating is a fundamental thing for us. I don't know that we are in Italy and that there is something that we all know, but I am asking myself how much one is aware of how he is eating, the quantity that I'm eating, what I'm eating. That is part of it. Sleeping, not going to sleep extremely tired, because one of the habits that we have quite often is that one doesn't go to bed until he's like completely exhausted, and very often going to bed like watching something, doing something. One keeps on doing something until then boom, just crashes. I know, for example, that sleeping on the couch is pleasurable. I remember when I was living in India, there is a specific name for this kind of sleep in Tibet. I don't know why, which is that kind of sleep when you're not in the bed. And I remember that there were times where I really liked so much that sleep, and so I was kind of sleeping in outside of the bed. But one thing or two things is something. When it becomes a habit, then it's not so good. So, to have a balanced cycle of sleep, one of the things necessary for this is to try to not go to bed exhausted. There is a point where, okay, now we sleep, and to manage to have the control of the turning on and off of our system.
Basico, no?
It's basic, right? Necessary also.
Riuscire a svegliarsi con energia.
To manage to wake up with energy. One of the things that helps with this is not to try is to try to go to sleep by shutting down the system slowly, not with like 1,000 thoughts before going to sleep. To eat with awareness, with the quantities that we actually need. All of this to help us bit by bit to have a system with an energy that can manage itself better, that we need to consume with more awareness our energy. And as I said before, one of the organs that is the most consuming of energy is the brain. Someone explained me, like in watts, how much energy actually was, like electrical energy. But the point, anyway, is that even if it's like a small organ, then compared to the rest, it consumes a huge quantity of energy. And it's clear that we are tired very often because we constantly consume energy, and it's not little with recurrent thoughts. And not only this, but the more our system is activated, the more we consume energy with that. When we imagine something for our body, for our system, mind-body system, to imagine something or to experience it effectively, it's practically the same. And this is also why meditation works well. But it's also why anxiety consumes energy, because when I imagine the conflict of tomorrow, physically I react towards that ghost that it's not there, but that I imagine it. I do react towards it, and it consumes energy as if I was in front of that situation. It's as if we had an energy consumption that it's somewhat constant, always sucking energy in this state of internal dialogue, constant internal dialogue with thoughts towards the future, towards the past, this mind always chattering, that consumes a lot of energy. It consumes a lot of energy and it obstructs other kind of thoughts. Because I also have the feeling that we struggle, as we were saying also last week, to go deeper on certain things because there is tiredness. And, and then there is the habit of running. I don't know if it has ever happened to you. To me, it has already happened that you have a day where there is time, like there is nothing that is pressing that needs to be done. I take something that I want to read, like a newspaper, a book, or whatever, and going through the titles like quite quickly, as if there wouldn't be time to go deep into that. No, I need to already do something else. But why? Me, for example, already from some time, I do my best to take the news and not to read all the titles, but like choose two or three and read them from the start to the end, and to allow myself to go deeper on that. I saw myself how much is there this running from one thing to the other on myself. And to do this, we need to create more space. But we need to give the right priority to this, to consume less energy, to do our energetical management. For example, I've always liked computers. A good computer has a software. Well, in the past years, they have evolved quite a lot. One of the fundamental parts of a computer is the software that manages energy. And so a good operative system manages energy better. It kind of freezes some processes, gives some more energy to others, mainly for batteries, because if a laptop goes with battery, it needs to manage energy well in order to function well. And so it's for us. Also, how does a hard disk work? I believe that we have all used a computer. When when you go and delete something, like a file, the file isn't actually deleted. What happens is that there is a sort of index of whatever it's in there, and when I remove something from the index, it's as if it's not there anymore. And so when I write something else, then it sees that that slot is not used, and it puts something on top of that, and it overwrites what is there. Also, when we do disk format, we're just kind of cleaning the index. There are also modes to completely clean the disk, but in general it's just cleaning the index. And so what happens is that our space, even if it's quite wide, broad, often we fill the index in like 2 seconds, and we create things, and then there is no more space to put anything else. Also because we fill with many things that actually aren't really beneficial or necessary. And so, before putting certain things, we need to clean, create space. And here there are two things that need to be done. One is to reduce the stimuli, to create space. Meditation, being into nature, breathing, decreasing the rhythm, and changing this habit of having to run constantly and constantly having to do something. And as sometimes people are saying, I have spent the whole day and I haven't done anything, like we said last week. Ah, how beautiful. Sometimes you need that. Because if we can't manage, first of all, to stop and to create some space, what happens is that we can talk and talk and talk on many arguments, but after a while, what happens is that we can't integrate into our life because there isn't space. When we manage to breathe, to have more internal space, at that point, sometimes you just need like a half a word, and that has like a huge power on us. And so, really, we need, in this sense, to slow down and to decrease the quantity of stimulation that we have.
Questo fa parte di uno dei punti più importanti negli insegnamenti che Buddha.
And this is part of the teachings that the Buddha gave and that they are transmitted from generation to generation, which is the first step that we need to do, which is loving oneself. It's very, very clear that it's very important to love the others, but in order to love the others, we need to love ourselves first. And so, what does it mean to love ourselves? It's not only to desire one's own happiness, we already do that, but it's also having the strength and giving priority to doing what is good for us and to drop what is not good for us. And in order to do that, for how easy or strange it seems, we need courage, because often it means to go against what it's said to be normal. It means also to go, having to go beyond what others think of us, because, for example, there are some habits that we sustain, and at a certain point we see that they are not good for us. How can I change? What will the others think of me? I've always done that. How can I do it differently or not do it anymore at all? I don't know if this is clear. At a certain point, one raises the hand. Hi everyone, I am impermanent. I am also changing. But I used to like that and now not anymore. I realized that that is too much. I need to take my space. One of the things, the beautiful things in my personal experience is that how can I try to put into simple words, even when we are in front of a conflict sometimes, or even with someone that we actually love, well, something that has a huge strength very often is to be able to welcome one's own weakness, to admit it, the fragility. Because when I'm in front of you, let's imagine whatever person. At a certain point, the person that is in front of us, in a sincere way, shows his or her weakness and fragility, and this, in a certain, in some way, kind of resonates inside of us and generates a certain empathy. And in a world where it's more difficult to be able to welcome one's own weakness and needs to manifest oneself as being strong, and to be able to allow oneself to manifest that weakness is actually a sign of strength. And so sometimes to be able to admit, I'm tired, I'm there, but in this moment I need to rest. It's something good. But I've always been there. Okay, but the world doesn't collapse. But often we think as if everything was like an emergency. And so I remember already many years ago, I was living in India, so many years have passed. I read the news that in the world that it's going more and more fast, someone that had like a lot of time and a lot of money decided to show a sign to make the world understand differently, and he built like a huge clock in the middle of the desert that rings once every 100 years. And when I read this, I told myself, well, that's quite useless, but that was the first thought. But thinking about it today, it has some sense, some meaning. I will never put energy and resources in building a clock that rings once every 100 years. You could do many other things, but in any case, we need to have like the courage to say, okay, slow. Because I don't know if you've ever had the feeling that of like doing a lot and not concluding really anything, like coming to the end of the week or at the end of the month and having that feeling of having consumed a lot of energy and asking oneself, where has that energy gone? I don't really understand, like, and when I see lives of people also like in family, but not only of a while ago, it seems that things were much slower, but at the end, one will be able to conclude more. This is my perspective. And according to me, this is because many things need more to go more into detail, more awareness, and this comes from only from when there is space, when there is calmness, silence, and we need to create this, and we can do it. It's not that we can't. It's absolutely doable. And inside of this, the first step is to love oneself. Because, as we have said already many times, we do what we want. We need to have clarity on what we want. And if we have to translate in words that are modern, more modern, what Buddha has proposed to us, the mission that Buddha gave us to us, a healthy life, a sane life, mind, sane mind, sane body in a sane environment, sane relationships. Also, when in the various texts of Buddhism use the term virtues like karma, positive karma, negative karma, what is one or the other? Positive karma, the definition of it is all the actions that when they will manifest their results, they will manifest in a state of physical and mental well-being. And the, the, the negative karma, it's the other way around, with a state of physical and mental suffering. And so, in other words, what is sane and what is not sane. But health, physical, mental, emotional, social, relationship wise, um, how important is it when our main goal is to feel to be well and not to suffer? It's fundamental, right? And here I invite you to do an exercise that in Buddhism exists very clearly, but we need to somehow bring it to our reality, because what happens often is that if I explain you the classical way of doing it inside the Buddhist philosophy, there is the danger of leaving it there as Buddhist philosophy, and not here inside our lives. And so we need to do a personal process and in order to then see what's in Buddhism. And in this case, the process is the question to ask oneself, what are the characteristics? How can I imagine also in details a healthy, sane life? My, my healthy life. For example, the four basic things that we have talked about, they are necessary, they are the minimum. So how important for me is that? In a scale from 0 to 10, our physical and mental health, what is the level that we put it at? We say that it's the first level. And so this means that I need to sleep well. And so, to describe oneself, okay, how do I see the state of a state of a healthy life? What is a healthy, sane life, mind? Let's try to describe it. Point by point, what do we expect out of a sane mind, out of a healthy relationship, in the relationships that we have with other people? What is a sane, healthy relationship? What do we expect out of it? For example, in a healthy relationship, I expect to be mutual welcoming, to be that there is the capacity of seeing the other and to welcome the other both in the good moments and in the bad moments. And if I have a healthy relationship with you, then I don't get into your bad moments. But if I can manage to 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 take the distance in those moments and to be there with affection without reacting to your bad moments. But this is to describe what is a healthy relationship and what does it mean, like a healthy environment also, what is a healthy way of working, of having fun, of interacting in general. Like we can go on and getting into many categories, but let's start by describing what is a healthy body, a healthy mind, and healthy relationships. These 3 points are already a lot. Then we can go on and speak about the healthy environment, so on. Can we manage to do this? What I see is that, like, for example, this morning I was with a group of doctors, and speaking with them, I also asked, in your path of formation, like of training, the process of training, how important was it, like a study on a healthy body, healthy mind? They say practically zero. And so, what is the function of a doctor? To sustain a state, a mental, physical state that is healthy, or to face and to eliminate the diseases. Very, very often it's in this way, but we live in the same dynamic. We take the body for granted and we don't think to bring the body in a state of health, because the lack of diseases and symptoms doesn't necessarily mean that we have a healthy body. The lack of mental symptoms doesn't mean that we have a sane, healthy mind. No. And to create and to bring the body to a healthy state and to maintain that state requires a tremendous effort. There is a huge effort to be done, because then all the lifestyle is connected, right? And someone would say, yes, but it's difficult to feel well. Yeah, that's true. But then I ask you a question, and what about feeling bad? Starting from the example that we took at the beginning, where do we consume the most energy? To feel well?
Perché è più faticoso star bene che star male?
Why is it more difficult to feel bad than to feel better? Because we have unhealthy habits. And when we have a habit, even if it's unhealthy, then we have a hard time to change it. The examples that I made many times of that doctor living in Spain, if I remember correctly, it was named Ramiro. I went to speak with him and he said, "Look, when a patient comes to me, one of the first things that I ask him or her, what do you like to eat the most?" And he said to me, if the patient says the watermelon, I say first thing, okay, stop eating the watermelon. But then if the patient would say stop eating pasta, whatever it would be, why? Do you really want to make the patient suffer? What you like to eat the most, then you shouldn't eat, because then the treatments that come after that don't seem so difficult. I don't know, what is the reasons? He said, okay, when the body is in balance, it's attracted by what sustains the balance. When the body is in a state of unbalance, the body is attracted to what increases that unbalance. And this has brought me to the image of like a object that is balanced, and when it's balanced, the force of gravity pushes towards the equilibrium, but when it starts to lean from one side, then the force goes towards the this unbalance. And when we see that we are not balanced, we should put strength in the opposite direction. And this was the answer for me to why we are so attracted to things that are unhealthy, because we are sick. In other words, we are not balanced. And the more I go into that direction, the more it becomes difficult to go in the opposite direction. And so, when we have a habit, and it has become a habit, to change it is difficult, even when that change is good for us. I don't know. I can talk about personal examples. For, I don't know for what reason we can go through very long processes of analysis, but since when I was quite young, I put this idea into my mind that I don't like so much physical exercise. I would always be the one at school that when there would be physical education, would be no, I really like more history, geography, and others would be like, oh, so good, we're going to play football. It's not that I didn't like football, but even if I didn't, I never managed to understand the matter of teams, like to to kind of cheer on a team. But this is me that just can't get into that dynamic also as a kid. But that is another argument. And so what happened is that I had many experiences where by doing wine exercise more, it generated like a state of well-being. Like I saw that it good to me, and even seeing and understanding all the logical reasoning of why it did good. It's I have a hard time with that. Yeah, I struggle. I manage to. I can do some exercise only when I do it, but not do it to do the exercise. If I need to work If I need to walk a lot to go from A to B, then I walk. I don't complain about it. If I need to take like something heavy, then I take it. And so something that I discovered, for example, is that I really like cutting the wood, and that it's also like some exercise. As I started, I had some pain in the shoulder because I never do exercise, but then it passed. But what happens is that when there is a habit, even when we see that the opposite is good, we struggle with that. But this is part of the process of changing the habit. I say this because we need to do like a concrete uh, effort, like that is sincere, real, brave in doing what is good for us and not what we like, and not what we are used to doing. We need strength for that. Once I manage to feel well, at that point I have the basis to open to the others. Because one characteristic that I've seen often is that it's very, very difficult to really be able to see the other and to open to the other when one's own necessities are not covered. It's a bit like saying, okay, if you put the hand, for example, on the door and you start to close it. I suppose that it's painful if you have the hand there. How much room do you have to think about the others? The more the door comes close, the less space you have to think about the others. At the best, you're thinking about the one that is closing the door. So what happens is that when our basic necessities are not covered, when we don't have that minimum of well-being, it's very difficult to really manage to see the other and to open to the other. And this is one of the reasons for which first we need to take care of ourselves in order to really open to the others. Then once we have managed to do that and we have created a habit to see the other, to have love and altruism, then that automatically balances and sustains our necessities. But in order to get to that, first of all, we need to start to take better care of our necessities, but in a real way. Because at the end, are we selfish or not? The definition of selfishness is the obsession with self-gratification. Are we obsessed with the I and the my? In front of a decision, what is the priority? The I am I and my, or the collective good? Okay, then we are selfish. At least let's do it well. Let's try to be healthy, selfish people. It's not a joke. There is this beautiful text. Tomorrow there will be a lesson on that, which is a discussion between ignorance and wisdom. And there is a passage in this text where ignorance, the wisdom tells the ignorance, ah, look, you don't do well, just go away. And the ignorance there represents the grasping to a vision of a reality as if it was like objective, autonomous, and there is also a point where it represents the selfishness. And that point, ignorance says, "You send me away. Look, if the person is doing something good, it's thanks to me." And even better, like if the person is trying to cultivate you wisdom, then that is thanks to me. Is that true or not? Like if we are here, if we came to get closer to a spiritual path or whatever, does it start from an altruistic intention, or is because we care about the I and the my? The majority of cases is because we care about the I and the my. So it's important to understand that there is nothing wrong in wanting to take care of oneself and to want to just be well. But the point is that the way that we do that quite often has the opposite effect. Once there was in Tibet, I thought about like a title of a book, like how to suffer better, how to suffer more. Because I thought, okay, if we put it in a more ironical way, what we do like, with sarcasm, then and we put it like in front of the face, then one can see it maybe with more clarity. Because sometimes I have the feeling of cartoon that I used to see as a kid, like the crazy.
In portoghese era corrida maluca. Non so come si dice in italiano, se c'era o meno.
Crazy races.
Ok? Non so chi c'ha in mente quello. E la sensazione che
And the
avevo
feeling that I had
cartone,
of this cartoon
non lo
in my
vedo da
memory,
tanto,
but I haven't seen it for many years.
ma
But
la immagine che ho è
the
tanti
image that I
che
have is
cercano di
like
fare tutto
many
per arrivare
people
a
like
far
trying
meglio
to
quello
do
che in realtà fa l'effetto contrario.
something more, but they do everything that has like the opposite effect. They run and run and run in order to win, but the opposite happens. And I look around, and often it seems to be like that. It's like as if everyone wanted to be happy, and we do the all everything possible to have the opposite effect.
Una cosa che è necessaria è un attimo
And so
fermare
one
e
thing
capire
that
cosa
is necessary, it's to stop the race first and to see what are the priorities. The first priority is I need to sleep,
mangiare,
eat,
cagare
shit,
e poi
and then
muovermi.
to move.
Ho bisogno di fare queste 4 cose.
I need to do these 4 things
Fatte bene.
done well.
È una priorità.
It's a
Prima di
priority.
guadagnare soldi, prima
Before
di
earning
vedere il
money
mondo,
and
prima di fare
seeing new
tante,
things,
tante
before
altre
doing
cose,
many other
riuscire a fare
things, I
quelle
need to do
priorità
these
bene.
4 basic priorities well.
Quindi,
And so,
qual è la mia priorità? La mia salute
what is my
fisica e
priority?
mentale
My mental and
o altre
physical
cose?
health or other things?
Perché molto spesso io
Because
sento questa
often
frase,
I
la
hear
cosa più
this
importante è la salute.
way of saying, but the most important
Coltiviamola,
thing is health. Well, let's cultivate it.
ma solo che noi viviamo in questo
But we
sistema molto
live
spesso
in
dove
this
la priorità
system
è
where very
fare,
often is like
creare.
in the system where the priority very often is like to create,
Anche quando va a
even
discapito della
when
salute.
it's against health.
Quindi non è vero che la
So it's
priorità è
not
la
true
salute.
that the priority is health.
Quando noi ci troviamo davanti a qualcosa,
When we are
quando noi ci
faced,
troviamo davanti a qualcosa
when
che
we are
ci
in front of
piace,
something that we like, but it's not good for
qual è la
us,
priorità?
what is the priority?
Mi piace
I like it,
o no?
isn't it?
Perché se io vi dico
Because
guarda che stai mangiando
if
un
I tell
veleno,
you, look, you're eating a poison
mi piace tanto.
that you really like,
Quanto è faticoso smettere.
how difficult is it to stop? Very
So,
difficult.
chi di noi
I don't
ha
know.
dei dubbi sul quanto faccia male la
Among
quantità di
among
zucchero
us,
che si mangia di solito?
if there is anyone that has doubts on how
Non so se qualcuno ha dei
unhealthy
dubbi
is
su
the
questo,
quantity of sugar that we eat in general, I don't know if anyone has doubts,
però è faticoso smettere,
but it's difficult to stop.
ok? Non parlo più del caffè, ho già parlato
I'm not
tante
talking
volte,
about coffee. I've
ho toccato
already
il punto dolente,
talked about it many times.
anche perché sinceramente parlare del
Also,
caffè mi sembra un
because
pochettino da vegano.
honestly,
A me io non
talking
lo
about
bevo, quindi non sto
coffee,
parlando di
it
caffè,
seems like
perché
a little bit like
lo zucchero già è diverso. Però il punto che volevo dire è che
cowardish because I don't drink it.
noi
So,
dobbiamo avere
but
in
the
qualche
point
modo
is that
coltivare
we
la
need to
forza di
cultivate somehow
riuscire
the
a fare
strength
quello che ci
to
fa bene
do
anche se è difficile,
what is good for us, even if it's difficult,
perché anche questa è
because
un'abitudine.
also this is a habit.
E invertire un
And
po' quella
to
dinamica del minimo sforzo e del massimo
revert
conforto.
that dynamic of minimum effort
Perché la
and
cosa
maximum
importante non
comfort,
è avere
because the
meno
important
effort e
thing
più
is not to have
conforto.
less effort
La cosa
but
importante
more
è
comfort. But the
sostenere
point
un
is
corpo
to
e una mente
sustain
sana
a healthy mind and body,
e richiedono certe
and it
dinamiche per
requires
rimanere
certain
così.
dynamics to remain into that.
Non so, a
I
me
don't
una
know.
cosa che mi preoccupa
A thing that
tanto in
worries
questi
me
giorni
a bit or a lot
è
these
il
days
discorso che
is
noi abbiamo
the
nello
fact
sviluppo
that
tecnologico
in
di
the
questi ultimi
technological
100 anni,
development of the past
principalmente,
100 years, we have
ma anche prima, cominciato
mainly, but also
siamo arrivati
before
a
it already
mondi
started,
differenti
but
in 100 anni,
in the
anche meno.
past 100 years there has been
Abbiamo
like a
continuato
significant
sempre di più a
increase. We have continued
terziarizzare, a delegare
to
le cose che
delegate
avremmo potuto fare noi. Le
things that
macchine,
we could have done ourselves, like with
abbiamo cominciato prima di
machines.
tutto a
We have started
delegare le
like to
cose che facevano
delegate
una fatica
things
fisica,
where there would be like
diminuire la
physical
fatica
effort
fisica
to decrease the
con delle
physical
cose,
effort with
aumentare il
things
comfort
increasing the comfort and decreasing the effort. And we see this from ways of transportation, of communication, machines do things in the house, washing, cooking. And if we go and look, we see constantly that we try to do things always faster, in a more comfortable way, with less effort. Also because we see time as effort. Now we are getting to a point already for some time, but we're getting there more and more, where we're doing that thing always to delegate, but then on a mental plane. So like, oh, for example, the calculator. We started with that. I don't know how many are still capable of doing calculations with the head. Like me, I'm completely incapable. I was never able to do that. I never developed that capacity actually, even if I like maths a lot.
Non è che non sia per me, non mi sto mai allenato più che altro, ho smesso di andare a scuola con 12 anni. E non è che quando studiavo filosofia buddista si studiasse matematica.
And it's not that when I was studying Buddhist philosophy, you study math. But what happens is that we lost the capacity because we stopped to use it. What I invite you to use and to think with attention, it's about the use in the spirit of artificial intelligence, okay? Because usually I don't really like to stay here and talk about the news actuality, but it's not about that. It's that the less we use our our own characteristic, then the more we risk to lose that characteristic. And there are some characteristics that are fundamental to our inner development. And the more we delegate them, the more we lose them. And one of these capacities is constancy and effort. When my master in Tibet, and there will be that kid that would take the water on the shoulder for 5 floors, 20 liters. And one morning I was there and he was in front of me, and so he was putting that water in a container, and about like 5 floors below that there would be like a tap. And I said, okay, but why don't we just take a tube upstairs? And so I go with my very pragmatic mind to the master, and I say, but why can't we just put a tube? It's not like something costly, it's technically easy to take water here. And he gave me the answer that I never expected. He said, if the young kids don't learn to have constancy and effort with the most basic things of life, like bringing water, how can then have constancy in meditation? Because then effort is not something that you have or not have, it's something that you learn, it's a habit. And so one sees there the water, and he's wasting time carrying the water. No, the point is not the water, the point is training oneself in constancy and effort, which is fundamental in life. And once one wants to do something a little bit more in life, it's one of the most important qualities to realize anything, from the mundane things to the more profound spiritual things. Do we need constancy into that? Is it difficult? And so this is a quality that we need to learn. But how do we learn? By doing it. It's like when someone asks me, Lama, how do I develop concentration? You just concentrate. One develops concentration by concentrating. It's not like there are many other things to do. the beginning one can focus for 2 seconds, half a second, and gradually becomes more, but you need constancy and effort. And so we have fundamental characteristics, our capacity of research, our capacity of, okay, I want to know something, how do I do it? I go and search. Once you used to take books and talk with people, and sometimes you wouldn't go and have a research on something, and you will go and have a research on something, and on the way you will learn many other things. And now you just type something and you get all the answers, and you just stop at the first answer, don't even look at the others, and we are more and more losing our capacity of researching. Me last week, I don't remember even if I told it last Wednesday, because I was quite shocked, because I asked, I needed to translate text that was quite complex from Tibetan to English, a prayer that was new, of a swift return, of a habit, and I really didn't feel like it. It's not that I didn't really have like time, but I didn't have like mental space to sit there and to translate, because in order to translate well from the Tibetan to Italian, especially these texts, this kind of text with verses, you need a lot of space, a lot of time. And so I told myself, okay, let's try. I used one of the sites of artificial intelligence, and I made 4 trials with 4 different models, languages, and 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 then I had like a translation that was like 98% perfect from Tibetan to English. Like 6 months ago, it was really bad, and now it was quite a difficult text, but I was quite shocked because it was very good. Okay, I need to change, tweak like a couple of things, but and even when I sent my translation, I didn't put my name because I felt ashamed. I didn't translate. They asked me a translation. I sent a translation, and then it's done well, and I checked it, and unfortunately I know the languages well, so I can know. The other time it gave me like foolish things, and but now it was perfect quite. But so my worry is that if I stop to translate, what happens to my capacity of analysis of the text, to really be able to understand the meaning, to correlate one language to the other? What does it mean? What does it happen? I lose it. Our capacity of synthesis, our capacity of analysis, of research, of getting into the details. So I invite you, the qualities that you want to have, that you want to cultivate, even if someone else or something else can do it for you, do it. Let's do them anyway. Because otherwise, and this is not a joke, it seems like a joke, but it's not. Otherwise, in a short time, when it will be up to us to take a personal decision without the artificial intelligence personal assistant, we won't be able to take that decision, because we want to have security in ourselves, confidence in ourselves. We will be more and more easy to manipulate. We're not talking about sci-fi. It's like something that it's already here, and that we already use. What does this have to do with Dharma, one could ask? It has to do with that as much as carrying the water has to do with it, because we need that capacity of being able to read, to reflect, to understand, to have clarity in our decisions. This is important. And for this, we need to cultivate what we want to have. It's like the example of my grandpa of which I talked about many times. Like that at 87 years old, he was there like doing a game on the phone. What are you doing? I'm playing, but why do you like it? No, it seemed as if it was doing something stupid and was quite like. So why are you doing it? He said because as you get older, the cognitive capacity of the brain gets lost. So one needs to always learn new things in order to not lose the short-term memory. That's why I play the game. And actually, with is 100 years ago, and he still has a short-term memory, which is quite good. There are moments where it seems that it's not so well connected, but then he actually understood everything. And this is something in which we need to train ourselves. And so the conclusion of all of this to me, also because this Sunday I'm leaving for a trip and I will be back in July. Then in July we have all the period of teachings in Abagnano and also in August. Then in September I will have other two trips and we'll come back in October. So this year I didn't want to do any trips and exactly the opposite happened to me. And so we won't repeat this event at the Kunpen until like mid-October, unless I really can manage between one thing and the other. But I wanted to conclude with what is the most important thing to me at the end, which is our everyday life. If anyone would ask me, are the spiritual retreats important? Yes. Is meditation important? Wonderful, excellent, yes. Mantra, prayers, study. But what is worth the most is how we live daily life. Then the rest serves as something that sustains to recharge the batteries to go deeper, and it's very important and wonderful. But in the in the middle of all of that, the key is to remember that our life is in our hands, and not in our hands in an abstract way. It's in our hands, in our daily life, in our way of thinking, in our way of talking, in our way of eating, of sleeping, of interacting, of living the everyday life. It's here the life is happening. It's the same sentence from Kung Fu Panda. The past is not there. The future. What was it? The past is not there. The future still has to come. And the only thing that you have is the present, and for this, it's called the present, a gift. Then someone said that it wasn't from Kung Fu Panda. Someone else said it. I heard it from Kung Fu Panda, so I quote my source, my lineage of that sentence. But so what happens is, as that sentence from Afitisha was saying, um, at night we are sleeping, during the day we are distracted, and in a while we are dying, we are going to die. And where is life? Because the most important thing, most precious life that we have in life, at the end, what is it? It's life. And where is life? It's now. It's in our feelings, in our words, in what we see, what we feel, in the constant flow of what we are living. And the most important thing is to really try to put effort, even if it means like to walk against the tide, the current, to live a healthy life. From eating, to how we buy, to how we talk, to how we work. And it's not always easy. It's very difficult when there is a habit that is both collective and personal, that it's opposite, contrary. Because there are habits that are collective and that they are not healthy,
anche noi facciamo parte.
of which we are also
Ancora più
part.
difficile in quel caso.
And in that case, it's even more difficult, but we can do it.
Però è quello di dire
But
viviamo la vita con gioia, ogni momento
so
che
we need to
troviamo.
live life with
Abbiamo
joy
tempo da
every moment that there
perdere
is.
con
We don't have
questo,
time to waste with jealousy, envy, a lot of worries. Why am I thinking about that? That will happen maybe in 3 months, that maybe tomorrow will die, or maybe even today.
non serve niente.
It's
Rilassiamoci
useless.
un po'.
Let's just relax a bit,
E cerchiamo di dare valore al
or a
momento che ci
lot,
abbiamo davanti.
and let's try to give value to the moment that we have
Questo
in
è
front of us.
fondamentale.
And this is fundamental.
E poi,
And then
una volta che noi cominciamo a prendere
once
più cura di noi
we
stessi,
take
questo ci
better
permette
care of
di fare
ourselves,
qualcosa
this
di
allows
incredibilmente
us
più bello,
to do the greatest and most wonderful thing,
aprire il nostro cuore
which
agli
is
altri,
opening our heart to the others,
che poi fa un bene a noi stessi spaventoso,
which also does an
nel
incredible
senso enorme.
good to us, like an enormous amount of
Stavo anche
goodness.
riflettendo recentemente
I was also reflecting recently
sul fatto che
on the fact that
quando abbiamo dei sentimenti di
when
piacere,
we have pleasurable feelings, there is
come si dice, una
how you say,
corrispondenza
like
fisica. Il piacere,
physical
no,
relationship
sensi,
to that.
eccetera, eccetera, corrisponde
The
alla
physical
dopamina prevalentemente.
pleasure of the senses mainly
Quando noi abbiamo
relates to
quella
dopamine.
sensazione di benessere
When we
che
have
viene
that
quando
sense of
aiutiamo
well-being,
qualcuno,
when that it comes from
non come
like helping
sacrificio ma per
someone, like
piacere,
not as a
molto connessa
sacrifice,
con la
but
serotonina.
with pleasure, it's
Viene
related to
spiegato da un
serotonin,
punto di vista
and is
fisico
explained
che
from a
più
physical point of view
abbiamo
that
picchi di
the more you have
dopamina,
peaks of
più abbiamo
dopamine,
una vita
the
con
more
tanta
you have like
dopamina,
a life with a lot
meno
of
abbiamo
dopamine, the
serotonina.
less you have serotonin.
Vanno come una bilancia.
They go like
La serotonina corrisponde alla
as
soddisfazione.
a balance,
La serotonina, da quello che ho
a
capito io,
scale.
si sviluppa per esempio
Serotonin,
nel
from what I
dare.
understood,
La
comes from
dopamina nel
giving,
ricevere.
and the dopamine from
E,
taking.
e vedendo una persona
And
che
seeing a
richiama
person
molto
that has
dopamina nelle sue cose
a very
quotidiane,
dopaminic life, if we can
è
say that,
sempre pensando
that
al
it's
proprio
always
piacere, non riesce a
thinking
vedere
about
l'altro.
one's own pleasure,
Allora può
can't see the
pensare
other,
all'aiutare.
because what has priority is
Una
oneself.
persona che ha tanto piacere nell'aiutare
A
l'altro, dopo un
person
po'
that
non
has a
riesce
lot of
tanto a
pleasure
godersi il
in
proprio
helping the
piacere.
others, after a while it doesn't really give so much importance to
Non è la
one's own
priorità.
pleasures. It's not
Perché
a
quando c'è
priority.
tanta serotonina,
Because when you
quando
have a
c'è
lot of
questa
serotonin,
profonda
when there is a profound
soddisfazione, questi
state of
picchi di piacere non
satisfaction,
sono importanti.
those peaks of satisfaction and pleasure are not so
Io qua,
important.
e poi c'è il terzo tipo di piacere che mi
And
viene in mente,
then there
quello
is the third
che è
kind of
connesso più
pleasure,
con l'ossitocina,
which is more
che è
connected
connesso
with
con lo scambio di
oxytocin, which
affetto.
is like related to the exchange of affection.
E io mi chiedo che
And
tipo di
I ask
felicità voglio
myself,
coltivare
what
questa
kind of
volta.
happiness do I want to cultivate?
E noi viviamo in
And we live
un'epoca
in a time
dove
where
abbiamo fatto più o meno questa
more or
equazione,
less we
più dopamina,
made
più
this
felicità,
equation, okay, like more
che è
dopamine, more
un'illusione
happiness,
enorme.
which is a tremendous illusion.
Invece dobbiamo portare una vita
But
dove la
actually, we
felicità conta
should
di più
lead a
rispetto
life
alla
where
serotonina e
happiness is
all'ossitocina.
much more related
In
to
altre parole,
serotonin and
il dare
oxytocin.
e lo scambiare,
In other words, with
l'affetto,
giving and
l'amore.
sharing love,
Le persone
affection.
più felici che ho
The
conosciuto
most
nella
happy
vita sono
people
le
that I've
persone più
met in my life
altruistiche che ho
are the
conosciuto,
most altruistic people,
più amorevoli,
more,
più
more,
affettuose,
the
più
most
stabili.
lovely, most stable.
Sono le persone veramente più
It's really the most
felici, che stanno meglio, che ho potuto conoscere,
happy
no?
people
Oggi qualcuno mi
that I've
chiese,
met. Today,
ma tu
somebody
credi
asked
che
me,
sia
Lama,
veramente
do
possibile
you really believe
raggiungere
that it's
questo stato di
possible
illuminazione?
to reach what is called
Con tanta
enlightenment?
sincerità.
With a lot of sincerity,
Io quello che so
what I know
sicuramente
is
è che
that
io ho conosciuto
I've
delle
met
persone,
people,
più di una,
more than one,
non tantissime
not
però,
many,
alcune,
but
sono
a
abbastanza
few,
fortunato,
I'm quite lucky,
che per me
that for me
sono e sono state
are and
un
have been
esempio
an
di
example
stabilità,
of
di
stability, of
gioia,
joy,
di
of
equilibrio, di
balance,
qualità
with
veramente
qualities
al di là della
really
normalità.
beyond normality.
Credo che sia un
I
processo che
believe
richiede
that
tempo, vite,
it's a process that requires
ma
time,
possibile.
lives, but it's possible.
Ma quando io vado a vedere
But
queste
when I go
persone
and
che ho
look,
conosciuto,
these people that I've
sono
met, like,
veramente che hanno
and
uno
which
stato
are
di, che
really
manifestano uno stato
which manifests like a state of happiness and satisfaction, balance, where also in front of very complex situation can manage to maintain a balance, are the people, are the more altruistic people that I've met. I've been very close to Lama Gangchen Rinpoche. Lama Gangchen Rinpoche, I've seen him go through very difficult situations where many of us would have completely collapsed. And it's not that he lived with pleasure those situations, but it's I have never seen him lose his balance. Never.
Un esempio di una cosa
And an example of a nice thing, to give an example of the different mode. One day there was a whole matter where in a public office there would be someone creating obstructionism to the center, even doing things not within the law, not according to the law, but like anyway, without getting into details now, I went and talked with him. Oh, look, Rinpoche, there is this situation. Things are a bit complicated here and there. And his answer, the other people with whom I talked, they were all angry with this person because here and there, how can you do that? Lama Gangchen said, let's pray for him to find a better job somewhere else.
quello mi ha fatto ridere.
And that made me laugh in that moment. Look here, how there is a different point of view. But other than this story, what happens is that the more we manage to cultivate a sincere feeling towards the other, then the more we feel better ourselves. The more we manage to do the four basic functions well, the next step is to understand that selfishly speaking, it's much better to be altruistic. And let's remember that altruism doesn't exist in opposition to selfishness. This, from my point of view, is a mistake. Often we think that either you're selfish or you're altruistic on the other. Altruism means like to be opposed to selfishness. Selfishness is thinking about myself, altruism thinking about the others. This vision, dualistic vision, to me is a great mistake. For me, altruism is not in opposition to selfishness, but it's like a ripe version of selfishness. Selfishness is that really strong desire of wanting to be happy, not to suffer, directed towards oneself. And altruism is the same force that also includes the others without excluding oneself. It's the same force. Yes, we are selfish, but let's take that force and just let's allow it to expand without excluding oneself, but including the others. And that's what altruism is. And it's the most beautiful thing that we can do, both for our well-being, physical, mental, emotional, because at the end, when we talk about a healthy life, the more we go on and reach our own level of healthy body and mind level, then we realize that in order to have that, then we really need like a lot of love, altruism, patience, affection, and these are the things that we need. And so, if we manage a bit to invert the scale of values and to go from what is giving a lot of value to what is being done and to give more value to what is experienced and to how one transforms himself or herself. How was day today? Today was good. Things at work were bad, but I cultivated much patience. I didn't react with aggressiveness, where usually I will react with aggressiveness. I managed to cultivate love. I listened to the person that was in difficulty. Then yes, I have some problems that I need to solve, and somehow I will manage. But it depends on what is our priority. Is it what I do, what I own, what I'm in front of the society, or who am I in front of my internal world? Is it more important to cultivate the physical, mental health, cultivate gratitude, patience, or is it more important to solve things, to obtain things as I want them, to avoid things how I don't want them, and so on? I see many people that have a lot of success from the professional point of view in doing, in being in society, and after a while they are kind of burnt, isn't it?
Non so se ha una vita di successo.
I don't know if that's a successful life. I don't know if I am a bit sarcastic and I go back on the fourth basic things. A life of success without doing the four basic things is not a life of success. Because for me, they're really like things that are the basis, and we need to take care of that. And one of the fundamental things for that is to develop love. It's to allow ourselves to see the other and to say, I love you. To allow ourselves to, first of all, to see the other and not to remain always closed only on the I and the my. Because even also a few weeks ago we talked about the importance of leaving the us on all levels, like spiritual sangha, as a society, as a country, as a city, as a culture, up to the level of the family and of the couple, where there is the me and the you, and then there is the us. And the us is worth more than the I and the you. But very often we leave the us where we do the equation, okay, me plus you, and we forget like the equals us. There is like me plus you. There isn't the third part. And we relate me plus the others are in society. But a collective, a society is not made of an ensemble of individuals, but it's an entity in itself. I don't know if I'm explaining myself, if I make myself clear. And that has its own life, its own process of which we are part, and we need to give value to that, because also that sense of belonging, it does very good to us. And part of that is love, is affection, to allow oneself to give affection. When we give affection, okay, at the beginning we're talking about energy. There are some attitudes that go and regenerate energy, and others that go and consume it. Affection, love, gratitude, jealousy, to name a few, they go and generate more energy. The more I give affection, the more I manifest love, gratitude, satisfaction, the more it generates energy. It doesn't take it away from me. Anger, jealousy, nervousness, dissatisfaction, jealousy, envy, they consume a lot of energy. And so, how do we manage our energy? How do we put our attention? And then there are also very beautiful ways to meditate, mantras, many beautiful techniques of sacred art, exercises, many things that are there and need to be done as a support to a sincere path. But this path can be done having as a support the rest of the life. Like that is how I eat, how I sleep, how I interact, everything. All of this needs to go together. And if I say all these things, it's mainly for one reason, because I really have trust in all of you, in the sense that I believe that any of us can do it. And the other reason for, for which I sit here and repeat all these things and I'm boring like I don't know what, because who knows me, who has been, I see many people coming here like for many years, and I ask myself, you must have a lot of patience, because for me it's not a moment where I'm teaching, because really I I really don't have much patience for teaching. I really tried. Like once I tried to teach like Tibetan language. I explained the alphabet twice. Okay, the third you're going to read it yourself. I did like a weekend of lessons. Okay, I explained everything that is necessary. Now you need to study. But what we're doing here is something different. For me, these moments were more is more like a collect a, analytical meditation, a collective analytical meditation. We're going to reflect together on things that we all know already, but we often forget about. And so we give a direction again and see where we're going. And this slowly works like a thought here, word there, and slowly it's working inside of us, and then it takes a real effect when we less expect it. So for me, these are two of the main reasons, and so I ask you with my whole heart, because also the fact that I won't come back here in Milan for a few months increases the probabilities that I can die or that you can die. With this, I'm not saying, okay, look, the Lama say that me or him will die. It's not what I'm saying, but it's pointless that we're talking about impermanence and everything, and then we live as if we were immortal. And so I really want to share with you what are the most important things for me and that I believe are really useful. And these are some of them. The importance of having the courage of to do, to to apply, to revisit our priorities effectively, and to remember ourselves that by loving others, we eventually do very good to ourselves. And loving the others doesn't necessarily mean I go back home and I manifest my love towards the husband, the wife, the kids. That is perfectly fine, but yeah, calling the parents, but also who's driving the taxi, the person that we meet on the street, at the restaurant, the people that we don't know, to allow ourselves to love everyone, to, to, to allow ourselves to say within us, your happiness is as important to me as my happiness. I love you. It doesn't cost much and it has a tremendous effect. And let's remember also again, and then I want to repeat it again for today at least. What is my priority? To do or to be healthy? To earn a lot? To continue to fill the container of material needs that just keeps being full since when I'm born? Or so what is the priority? Is to live in a healthy way, to live as a balanced, peaceful person. And our body has a beautiful characteristic, because naturally it gives us signals, as if it was like a control panel. It comes to my mind like planes, where there are like a lot of sensors, and our body, it's telling us whether we are doing it right or not, if we can listen to it. When we feel love, the body, what is the body telling us? That it's something right or wrong? when we feel anger.
sbagliate.
It's
Il
wrong.
corpo ce lo fa sentire.
The body is showing us.
Ok? E perciò, per quanto
And
possa
so,
sembrare in parte banale,
for how trivial it may seem,
poco profondo,
and
di
not
tutto quello
so
che vuoi,
profound, whatever,
le quattro necessità
the
basiche
four
sono,
basic necessities need to be taken care of.
perché questo è quello che poi dopo, ripeto, una
Because
volta
this,
ancora ci dà la base,
I repeat
poi dopo,
again,
piano
it gives
piano,
us the basis to
fare le
then
altre cose, dobbiamo
be
cominciare
able
da
to do
cose
the other
semplici
things.
per
We need to
poter
start
andare
from the
quindi
most
oltre,
simple things in order to go
a
to the more
permetterci di dare
profound
spazio
ones,
alla vita,
to
permetterci
give
di creare
space,
silenzio,
to,
permetterci
to create space in life and cultivate silence and to cultivate what we value
cosa
more
più
than
bella,
anything
che
else.
porta a me dà più speranza in
And
assoluto,
to me, what gives
è
the
che
most hope to
quello che
me,
io
the
faccio
most,
nella mia vita, i
is
cambi
that
che io applico nella mia vita,
what I
io
do in
vivo
my
il
life and
modo
what
in cui io vivo,
the way that I live
diventa una parte
becomes
importante, non perché io
an
ce ne voglia, perché
important
così è per tutti
part.
noi,
And
quello
it's
che
not
io e
because
qualcuno di
I
noi
do it,
fa,
it's
una
for every one of
parte
us.
importante
What I do,
della
it becomes an
cultura
important
che
part
lasceremo
of the
in
culture that
eredità
we leave as a
ai giovani
heritage to
figli.
the ones that will come after us.
Noi crediamo certe
We
volte di non
believe
valere, non
sometimes
è
that
vero.
we are not worth,
Le
that
parole
we
che
don't count.
diciamo, che
The
scriviamo, i
words
pensieri
that
che
we
abbiamo, le
say,
scelte che facciamo,
the
i
choices
prodotti
that
che
we take, the
compriamo, il
products that
nostro
we
modo di
buy,
vestirci, tutto
our
quello che
way of
facciamo ha un impatto
dressing
sulla nostra
has an
società.
impact on our
E
society.
piano piano la
And
visione del mondo che
slowly,
costruiamo, la cultura
the
individuale che andiamo a
individual
formare nel
culture that
corso
we
della nostra
go
vita
and create and
diventa una
shape
parte
toward
importante
during our life
della cultura
becomes an
che lasciamo
important
agli altri.
part of the culture that is left to the others.
Quindi
And so
lo sforzo che noi
the
facciamo
effort that we take,
non è mai in vano.
it's never in vain.
Quello che noi riusciamo a realizzare
What we
quando
manage
pensare alla
to
pace
realize, like for example, thinking about peace,
è faticoso costruire la pace.
it's very difficult to
Però è
build
possibile.
peace, but it's possible.
Ma io faccio la mia parte,
But I do
voi
my part,
fate la vostra.
each one of
E
you
piano piano
does
andiamo
do,
a dare ognuno
do
le
your
piccole
part,
cose. Qualcuno mi dirà, ma
does
ci
your
sono tutti
part.
quelli che fanno l'esforzo opposto.
But yes, there are all the ones that do the opposite effort. That's true, but it doesn't take away the possibility of
Tanto
taking the
non
effort
cerco in
in
fretta
a
di
certain
attaccarmi ad
direction,
arrivare subito al risultato.
because we shouldn't be in a
La fretta non è
hurry
di
or
la
to have
fretta di
attachment
caricare
to
tutte
get
queste
a
cose,
certain result. So
anche per
the
nostra
the
salute,
hurry is
per
not
ogni cosa.
to get
Questo è
to
quello che
arrive, to get to the goal,
camminare
but to start to
verso
walk.
quello che è una vita
And so I
sana, una
invite you to
società
start
sana, un
walking
rapporto
towards
sano,
what is a healthy life,
valorizzando
a
ogni
healthy
singolo passo.
relationship, giving value to any
Questo è
single
quello che
step.
fa tutta la differenza.
And this is what makes all the difference.
Quindi la conclusione
And
è
so the
amare se
conclusion
stessi,
is to love oneself,
amare gli altri,
to love the others,
possibilmente
and
avere una visione
possibly to
coerente
have a
della realtà.
coherent vision of reality.
Queste sono le essenze.
This, in essence, is the path.
E questo noi lo facciamo dove?
And this we do it
Nel lavoro,
where?
con la famiglia,
Uh,
con
during
gli amici.
in our job, in
Nella
family,
nostra
with
vita
our
di tutti i
friends, in
giorni.
our everyday life.
È lì che la vita si svolge.
And that's where life
E poi
is.
andiamo a integrare in
Then
questa
we
vita
go
di
and
tutti i giorni
integrate
la
in that everyday,
meditazione,
in this
la
life,
yoga, la
meditation, prayer,
filosofia, l'arte
philosophy,
sacra,
sacred art,
karma
karma
yoga, tante
yoga,
cose possono
many
essere.
beautiful things that can be integrated.
No, è
But
lì ed è nelle nostre mani.
it's there and it's in our
Quindi per
hands.
ultimo,
And so,
quello che di solito
lastly,
è all'inizio,
what is usually at the
ricordiamoci
beginning,
che il
let's
primo
remember
passo
that the
necessario
first
in tutto
necessary step in
questo
all of this
è prendere le
is
redini
to
della nostra
take the
vita nelle
reins
nostre mani.
of our life
In
in
altre
our
parole,
hands. In other
smettere di
words, to
vittimizzazione.
stop to victimize ourselves.
E dire, con tanto
And to
amore
say,
verso se
okay, with
stessi,
a lot
con
of
uno sguardo
love
positivo, io
towards
riesco a
oneself,
cosa.
with a positive pride, I can do it.
Se qualcuno di voi dice no, io non credo di potercela fare,
If someone of
in
you
qualche modo
says,
metti fiducia in me, dice ok, l'ama fiducia in me, allora io fiducia in me stesso posso avere. Perché io con tutta sincerità mi piace
with
moltissimo
all
venire.
sincerity, I really like to
Se io
come
non
here, but
trovasse
if
un
I
senso,
wouldn't find
veramente a casa.
a meaning in that, I would just stay comfortably home.
Il senso è la fiducia
The sense is the
sincera
trust
in me.
that I have towards any of you.
Quindi quello che io vi
And
chiedo
so what I
è
ask
di
you is to reflect with attention, with affection towards yourselves, and to do what's possible to apply it in everyday life. Okay? And then, as Lama Gangchen was often saying in English, see you sometimes, see you every moment. Because what makes it so that two people are close or not, it's not actually physical vicinity, but it's that their heart and their mind goes in the same direction. And so in that sense we are close. And then, doing a short advertisement, who wants to be close physically in the spirit, we have all the teachings in Abbagnano, and you're all welcome in July and August. And I thank you sincerely for not only for being here today with a attentive mind, with the open heart, but forever for what you do daily. You also, for me, you give significance to myself. I receive a lot every time that I come here, and also in other places. And personally, it gives a lot to me to be able to be in this place of honor and to share something that is good for me. I don't know what are the causes and conditions actually that brought me to this role, but reflecting, as Lama Gangchen was saying, we we are here to serve, and what I look for is sincerely to offer the best. And I thank you for giving me this possibility, because I learned much more by having to explain it rather than have to study for myself. And so I'm receiving a lot in all of this, and I have a profound gratitude towards all of you. And so thank you in this sense, and we are always close anyway. So now let's do the final dedications.
Jetsun lame kutse rapten chin amkar chin le chochur gepadan losan tempe dreme sasum drove musel taktu ne gyur chi kewa kuntu yanda lamadan dralme cheki pela longche chin sadan lamge yente rabzone Dorje changi kopa nyurtob sho nimo dele tsendele nime kuyan delekshin ninsen takto delekpe kuncho sumki chingilo kuncho sumki ngodrubutsol kuncho sumki trashisho all'alba o al tramonto, di notte o durante il giorno, possano i tre gioielli concederci le loro benedizioni, ottenere tutte le realizzazioni e cospargere il sentiero della nostra vita con molti segni di buon auspicio. Grazie a tutti.